Hi, Jason.
Hi, Megan.
Okay, so you have a blog on this week about dating. And so I love to talk about dating. I don't love dating, but I do well, I love to talk about relationships. So I
Same.
would love to hear, some of your thoughts about, I don't know,
Yeah. I
even what
mean,
were you thinking when you wrote this piece?
totally. I think one of the things is one of the catalysts for me writing this article was the fact that I love to talk about dating, love to talk about relationships. Dating and relationships are something that almost every client talks about in a session at some point in our therapy work together. So it just felt relevant and something like, most people could relate to. Um,
Uh,
yeah.
and it can be painful too, right?
Yeah, really painful and hard. And I think that's the other side, right? It's fun to talk. It can be really fun and exciting and bring up so much about ourselves and what we want. And at the same time, it can be really painful, really confusing. I think a lot of clients, I was kind of inspired in the sense that some of my clients really struggle with what they think they should want and what they actually want. And just that juxtaposition between, a lot of societal expectations versus what do I really want and how to get that chatter out of our heads and really focus on who we are as a person and how to attract the right person for us.
Yeah. Can we just dig into that piece a little bit? Because I totally relate to that.
Yeah.
You know how there's things that are like, write out every detail of this person that you're looking for. And I mean, I've only maybe done that once, but or maybe several times. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking for until it shows up. So I really do get confused about that. So I'm wondering, yeah, what your thoughts are about like writing down all those details.
Well, I think to write down those details, I love that idea. But I also think to write down all those details, we have to be so clear on who we are,
Mm.
and I think that really requires kind of like stepping back even one step from that of, am I writing these details down again because this is what my parents want, or this is what society wants, or am I writing, down the fact that we're going to travel together? Is that a value or is it a expectation? I think a lot of the things I hear, pretty kind of sadly with a lot of clients and a lot of people in my life and myself in the past, and maybe even still, is like, what I think I should have. So when you write down those qualities in someone, it's like, okay, I really want, someone who makes billions of dollars or something like that, which is not a value. And I think that a lot of times we're really focused on lifestyle or appearance rather than our values. So writing down what you want is great, but I also think it has to connect to something deeper within ourselves. And I think that's the maybe where some people steer wrong, or steer in the opposite direction of what we kind of should be focusing on.
Yeah, when you say that, it brings me to this kind of like spiritual place, which is like, oh, I think the thing is that we're supposed to become all those things that we're looking for.
Yeah.
And then we kind of attract somebody in a similar vibration,
Right.
maybe. Um, right, because like if I want somebody who makes $1 billion and I want somebody who's, I don't know, young and gorgeous and like, arm candy or whatever, that is probably coming from some sort of lack in me
Right.
that I want somebody else to sort of fill something for me. Is that the idea?
Totally. And I think that's one of the things that I really have seen in talking with a lot of clients and again, a lot of friends and myself in the past about is, am I writing this value down or putting this value out on paper because it's something I'm lacking in myself? And a lot of these things can be clues, I think, for us in therapy to look at like, is this something I really want, or is this filling this empty space or this need for a validation in a certain sense.
Right.
And a lot of the time with dating, you know, it's so complicated. And I love this topic because I feel like it's so interdisciplinary. There's so much that goes into it. And a lot of times it's about, wait, like slowing down and really understanding why am I wanting this? And where is that coming from?
Yeah.
Because I think the painful piece that you were talking about earlier can come from when it's mismatched.
Right, 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 right. So if somebody is, if you have a client and they are all over the place and you have a sense that they're not going about this the right way, I mean, if you could be their relationship coach, which you can't as a therapist, but if you could, like, where would you tell them to start?
It's so hard. And I have had clients in the past who just, you know, no matter how much you try to steer them in one direction, like, let's look at your values and, you know, let's talk, like, do you really want someone who's 6'7" or do you want someone who's kind, right? Um,
Yeah.
they often, you know, they're like, yeah, kind is good, but, and I think it's always focusing back to, let's talk about what's going on for you internally. Like, what does it mean to date someone who's 6'7" or, you know, whatever. And what does that signify to you? Because let's go back to this place within yourself that's needing something. So I think that's part of, in the article, like the clarifying piece, like, what are your goals, right? Because it's okay to want that, but is that going to get you to where if you want a serious relationship, is that going to get you there? Or is that only going to carry you so far? Maybe it's both, but sometimes it's not.
I mean, I wonder if in stating a goal that is very shallow, like I want somebody who's 6'7", it sounds like a nightmare. If I want somebody who's 6'7", you know, is that request and that mindset only also going to manifest in something that is kind of shallow?
Right. I mean, I guess there could be a 6'7" person who's
Also
also
kind.
amazing. But I guess if that's what you're focused on, you
Yeah.
might be missing a lot of the other qualities in somebody that, you know, that you really want. But I
Mm,
think that's also part of like checking in, you know, to your question, like checking in where you're at, right? Like, maybe you don't want a serious relationship right now, and that's okay too. You know, and I know a lot of times, especially with clients, I've seen, you know, this kind of dynamic related to sexuality or gender, I think, or non-monogamy or monogamy, right? Like, it comes into play in those ways too, when somebody's saying, hey, I'm in this monogamous relationship, but I don't know if this is working for me. Or, you know, I'm a cis woman dating a cis man, but I actually want to date non-binary people or whatever it is. I think we have to be really clear with our needs first and foremost. So I think directing clients back to that need and where it's coming from, and just fleshing that out and understanding in a deeper way, because otherwise we end up in relationships, whether it's serious or not, that feel really mismatched.
yeah, right. I guess maybe a good question also to ask oneself is, as opposed to thinking of these kind of external factors, you know, like what they look like or what they do or whatever, is asking yourself, how do I want to feel? How do I want to feel in this relationship? Right?
For sure. And I think that that comes into play, you know, a lot, because I think, again, it's for, at least in my experience, right? Like, I think so many people are so focused on what a relationship means that we kind of lose sight. And these are very like stereotypical examples, like how somebody look, how tall they are, or, you know, how much money they make or whatever. But I think there's more gray area examples where it's like, do I want to be in a queer relationship? Or, you know, like, what is my relationship to my, you know, if I was raised in a heteronormative environment? And I think that again, yeah, I forgot where I was going with that, but, you know, I think that it's important to ask yourself how you're feeling and how do you want to feel, because
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah, I wonder if do you have any, this is probably, I guess, my last question, but do you have any feelings, do you feel like there's any difference in dating? Let me spit this out. Is there any difference in queer dating as opposed to just sort of cis straight dating? Do you think does anything come to your mind?
I think what comes to my mind, and I don't know what you think, but what comes to my mind is kind of moving through a lot of different barriers and a lot of different societal expectations and a lot of expectations of self that can be really, really, um, deeply ingrained and internalized. What
Mm.
it means to be, feminine, what it means to be masculine, what it means to be to be raised as a cis woman or a cis man, it's there's so many societal barriers to kind of depending on how you grew up. And even if you grew up, some people have grown up in a religious or conservative environment, but even if you've grown up in a liberal place where everything is accepted, I still think that there's a lot coming at us, with media and all of that stuff that goes into it, what it means to be in a queer relationship, is it cool? Is it not cool? I think those things do come into play, and that's a huge difference because I think for every individual, we have to kind of face, what does this mean for me? And I think I see that with a lot of my clients too.
Yeah. Okay, I do have one more question. What do you think about dating apps?
Well, I don't know. I think they're a mixed bag, I think that in a way, it's like, how else are we going to meet people these days? And in another way, I've heard, I mean, when I was on them, they kind of sucked, and I think they still suck, is what I hear. But at the same time, some people meet their person on a dating app.
Yeah.
Um, I'm always trying to think about what would it be like to invent a new system where people met in real life, like some sort of dinner party idea, like, getting people together and having a dinner party. And I think some stuff like that is popping up.
Mhm.
Um, but the market is so saturated right now with the dating apps, so it's hard to find anyone.
Yeah, I think that I was thinking, well, it's probably your relationship to the dating app, which is either
Mm.
positive or not so positive, right? There's kind of that thing on the phones where the phone keeps feeding you information, and there's this sense like your mind gets into this kind of like judgment. So you're like swiping right and left people. And you actually have no idea what it would be like, what their vibe would be in person. So
Oh my gosh. And I remember, so many times I've met people in person and in the past thought to myself, oh my gosh, if I saw their photo on a dating app, I would have never swiped right.
yeah,
But they have such an energy
yes,
or like we had a connection that, oh my God, I'd totally go out with this person.
yeah,
So I think the dating apps really miss that. And it's unfortunate. And I think the dating apps, like, it's a good question because I think that they reinforce a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about, right? Like how things look, what is expected of me, even in any type of dynamic, whether queer or not.
yeah, yeah. And the hard thing is if I want to know how somebody makes me feel, I kind of have to meet them in person.
Right.
Um, Although you can tell a little bit from pictures, like even like what they decide to put up there, I think kind of tells a lot. But anyway, Jason, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. This is so fun.